Hey everybody, I'm back. Reviewing a few more books. I read 3 books really quick. A couple of them were pretty short. The third one was a little bit of a slog and a little bit longer. So I'll review them in separate videos and whatever. So the first one that I want to review is a book called Why Greatness Cannot Be Planned. And this, of the 3 of them, this was probably the most useful and concise and well put of the 3 books that I just finished reading. And it was basically talking about the idea of living your life and pursuing. He wasn't telling you to do anything. He was suggesting that a better way to pursue your goals and pursue your dreams and get where you generally want to go in life is by using constraints versus objectives. And the difference being that, you set an objective out there, I want to be a millionaire, or I'm going to be a millionaire, and you push and push and push and push and push to become a millionaire. And it takes such a long time to get there, blah, blah, blah. And usually people that say that don't end up accomplishing that goal because, and he explains this in the book very clearly, because becoming a millionaire is more than one stepping stone away. And at that point, he introduced a interesting thought experiment, which I found very useful and used for myself. Imagine you're standing on the edge of a lake and it's misty and you can't see more and there are stepping stones in the lake and you can't see more than one stepping stone in front of yourself. And the goal is you could either say the goal is to get to the other side of the lake and you can only see one stepping stone in front of yourself, or step on the next stepping stone that you think you should go on and see where it takes you and keep going and see where that takes you. Maybe you have to backtrack. Maybe you have to go sideways. Maybe you have to jump to get to the next stepping stone, whatever it is. But let your curiosity and what seems interesting and what seems like the right step to your intuition and to you, let that be your guide more than this huge end goal that you may never end up reaching, because you don't necessarily have the tools right now to get yourself to that. Now, if you're one step away from reaching your end goal, great, do that. He was saying that the idea of objectives works for smaller goals, for things that you can see. I need to do this step, then this step, then this step, and then I'm there. He brought up another example. Okay, so then the difference would be constraints. So constraints are, say you want to get healthier or live a healthier life. This is my example I'm using. He doesn't use this in the book, but this is the example that I use to apply to myself so that I could take what he was saying and use it for myself. He's a computer scientist, so he was using examples that applied to artificial intelligence, computer programming robots, algorithms in computers, stuff like that. He did use some other examples. He looked back in history and showed where constraints were more effective to reach the end goal than objectives. For myself, a great example that I was using was, okay, so I want to become healthier. A lot of people say, I want to become healthier. What do I need to do to become healthier? Well, a constraint would be something like get a certain amount of sleep per night. Whatever you can, right? The most effective thing would be get 8.5 hours, 8.5 to 10, depending on who you are, depending on what you need, hours of quality sleep, not just quantity, that can come later, of sleep per night. Okay, that's probably your foundational thing, right? Your mental clarity is going to go up, your energy through the day is going to go up, your mood is going to stabilize, all the benefits from just putting that constraint into place. That's not the objective. The objective generally overall would be better health, right? So put that constraint in place. You get better sleep, okay? You want to be healthier. Whether you're losing weight or wanting to gain muscle, right? You're going to exercise. You're going to want a fitness in some capacity. So find something that is interesting to you, find something that is fun and that you want to get into as far as fitness is concerned, and go for it, right? That's another constraint you can put in place. Make it a consistent habit to fitness 3 to 5 times a week or whatever. Start with one, move up, but put that constraint in place and stack that habit on top of the sleep habit. Now the next habit, next constraint, next habit, next whatever you want to call it that you could put in place would be to start to clean up your diet. Maybe not drink so much. Maybe not drink alcohol so much. Maybe drink a little bit more water during the day. Eat cleaner foods. Maybe find something that you feel is sustainable and that you can use as a nutrition protocol for yourself and stack that in there. So you got 3 really good pieces. These constraints will come in and little things you can piece and stack in there and keep adding on to these existing constraints. And what you'll find is that you will have gotten healthier, but at the same time, you will have progressed in lots of other areas of your life as well. Your emotions, your emotional control will increase. Your ability to think critically will increase. Your desire to expand your knowledge and to learn more will increase. These things will come as a result of you feeling, of your body, your gut, your mind, everything feeling better, feeling safer, feeling cleaner. Maybe you explore spirituality as a side benefit or as a side constraint of having explored all these other things. You worked on the body, and you worked on the mind, so maybe you should work on the emotions and the spirit, right? It can just go, and this feeds back into his idea of the stepping stone. So one stepping stone, you didn't know where it was going to take you, but then it led to 3 other stepping stones along the way that took you somewhere you never thought you would go, but you're so glad you went there and you're so glad you did that. He used a couple of examples from history. He was talking about computers, and if somebody had set out the objective in the 1820s when the first idea of a machine that could compute numbers came up in its most rudimentary form, right? The objective was make a computer. Never in a million years would they have thought we need vacuum tubes to make the computer compute. But when the very first computer was made over 100 years later, they used vacuum tubes for computation as the transistors because that was what technology existed at the time to aid in computation. Vacuum tubes before then had been used for electricity and for light and for radio, right? Edison, Fleming, different inventors. No one would have thought to take the stepping stone of vacuum tubes if they were looking for computation. But because they weren't looking for computation at first, they realized that they could use vacuum tubes to facilitate in this thing, and that turned out to be a computer. In a much more basic form than we know of computers. Anyway, he talked about this and that was great. Another example he used was the Wright brothers. They didn't set out at the beginning to achieve flight. They built bicycles. Then they got curious and they said, well, why don't we put wings on the bicycle? So they put wings on the bicycle. Then they said, well, we don't have enough thrust to get enough lift to lift the bike and the wings off the ground, so we need more thrust. So they rigged up the internal combustion engine to the wings and the bike. But no one would have thought when the internal combustion engine came out however many years before that was going to be what helped people fly. And if they had, it probably wouldn't have been invented, or flight wouldn't have been achieved. At the same time that the Wright brothers were curious and doing things in the constraint-based way, there were competitors funded by the government with way more money than the Wright brothers with the objective of flight, who actually never achieved flight on their own, but stole their ideas and then got flight by stealing the Wright brothers' ideas and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there are infinite examples in the course of history, and you will see as we progress into the future that a more effective way of accomplishing your goals, your general goals in life, would be to pursue a constraint-based search, a novelty search, rather than an objective-based search. Another example that he used was trying to program a robot to mimic the human walking gait. And when they tried to program it to walk a certain way, the objective style, right, it kept falling over and it couldn't shift balance correctly and it couldn't maintain its weight on two legs and it just couldn't do it. But when they had it do what's called a novelty search, where they plugged in an algorithm that said, try something new every time. If it works, keep it. If it gets you closer to the goal, keep it. And if it doesn't work, get rid of it, but try something new every time. Infinitely faster. The robot was able to achieve to mimic human gait, and was able to actually do it and looked and was just like a human walking, based on the constraint-based searches. Anyway, that's how he kind of came to this, and he started formulating this idea. It's an awesome book. It's a short book. It's like 130 something pages long, 150 pages long. Super short book, very well written, very precise, very concise. Definitely worth a read.